All right, y'all. Just because Joe Rogan gets a lot of views and gets a lot of notoriety and memes because of what he be taking, that don't mean the average Joe is supposed to be taking that, all right? You want to worry about three-letter abbreviations and words, you should be worrying about a J-O-B, your MBA, the IRS. You should not be worried about that DMT. All right? You should not be smoking that DMT and enter into that floating meditation chamber. All right? You entering that cryogenic chamber high off your mind. You think you Captain America in this bitch. Bitch, you Captain Uganda. The Captain Uganda movie where they were trying to save Private whatever that African movie clip is, where they're like, the man is over, gungi. That shit, bro. You are not Captain America. You're not Joe Rogan. All of y'all on Goodreads who put this book at the rating it was, I'm talking to all of y'all, bro. There was a lot of you. I don't know what copy of the book you read. I'm thinking you probably hit up Ezekiel and you got a bootleg copy. You didn't read Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. You read Condo Before Sunrise by Adam Sandler. And I'm trying to get that copy of the book because if that copy is the rating that y'all put it at, I'm trying to read that instead. But unfortunately, I had to read the actual book, and the actual book wasted a week of my life. I'm studying hard for college. I'm trying to get good grades. And any free time I get, which is basically a couple days out of the week, I'm reading this book, trying to see what's up with it. And it was a waste. It was a waste. Was it terrible? No. But man, it was mid, bruh. This book is so meandering, drags on the plot, and you just thinking to yourself, get to the fucking point, bitch. It's like that special missus. Imagine you getting some freaky deaky from your special missus, and every time it starts getting good, she get up to go do the laundry. She trying to separate the white from the pinks. Meanwhile, I'm trying to put my white inside of her pink. Get with the game, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm talking to you, ma'am. It's just like me and Felicia. Just like me and Felicia. Bro, me and Felicia, bro. Every time I'd ask her, you know what I'm saying? Do you think? Do you think? Do you think? I ain't called BD for no reason. You know what the initials are for now. She do her thing. She would stop in the middle of it and go up to play Pac-Man. I'm sitting there like, bro, you want to play with that joystick before you play with my joystick. That's how I feel about this book. So let's get into this review, man. Enough of that rant buildup, all right? Y'all want to know what book I'm talking about? I'm talking about Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I don't know. Riley Sager. I'm going to call you Riley Sager, all right? That's what I'm going to call you, Riley. Home Before Dark has to be the most overrated adult horror book that I've read so far. And I've not, or actually, you know, the most overrated adult horror story that I've seen so far. Because I've not read a lot of novels, but I've watched a lot of Creepshow. I've watched 3 seasons of Tales from the Dark Side. I've seen horror movies. I've read some horror graphics. You know, I've read some horror novels back in my day. I know I'm familiar with some of the classic stories as well, like Frankenstein, which I read in college. Bro, this has to be the most overrated adult horror story that I've read. And I'm going to go into detail by that by the end of this review when I talk about the book. But I just want to get, you know, off rip. This book gets a 6 out of 10. It's mid, but it's on the lower end of mid. It's borderline from mid to, you know what I'm saying, kind of bad. Kind of bad. And on Goodreads, this book has a 4.1 out of 5-star rating, averaged on 184,000 ratings. What were y'all smoking before you read the book? I need that but I'm not going to take it before I read books. You need to be in the right state of mind when reading a book. A 4.1 star out of 184,000, and that to Amazon out of 16,000 ratings or more had it as a 4.4 out of 5 stars, meaning this book is rated higher than the previous adult horror book I read, Nosferatu by Joe Hill. My fucking ass that this bullshit is higher than Nosferatu. I'll sell off my fucking left testicle if you think that this shit is higher than Nosferatu. No way in hell. No way in hell. Okay? And if you're wondering what the story is even about, so we can actually discuss why I actually feel this way, let's get into a brief plot synopsis. Sorry about that little bit of a rant. I just wanted to get my feelings out, off my chest. Now we'll get into the actual review. So what is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager about? So basically, there is this girl named Maggie. Maggie is an adult. She's a home decorator. Her and her partner in the business basically find homes, they flip it, they redecorate it, and then they sell it on the market and obviously get that profit off of it. However, she's pretty infamous as a person, as you quickly find out. And that's because her family is famous. Her family had fled this basically house, this giant old Victorian style manor that was allegedly haunted, and it was called Baneberry Hall. It was called that because there's baneberry bushes all around, which are like these like red poisonous berries, and there was so much of it that it looked like a sea of blood. So this is infamous as to being a haunted kind of manor. They didn't know it at the time, but there was deaths that was associated with it. People were killed in this house, suicide murders and stuff like that, some terrible tragedies, and they were unaware of it when they bought the house. And when they finally entered, they basically experienced 20 days of paranormal activity and hell, and then they left the house. And the reason why the entire town and even more people than that across the United States know about this haunted manor is because the father had actually written an allegedly non-fiction book about their experiences in this haunted manor called Baneberry Hall. Very much and similar to like something like Amityville Horror. And actually, this book is described in the story itself as to being even more famous than Amityville Horror. This is like the next, I guess, spiritual successor to that. And they became very famous, very rich off of it. And the daughter basically suffered as to being an outcast her whole life. People judged her based off of this book. They wanted to know whether it was fiction, whether the father made it up, or whether it was actually true. And she basically copes to herself, saying that, her father was full of bullshit. He basically made up this whole story, and she doesn't even remember any of it, because I think at the time she was like 5 years old. She was too young to fully recollect and remember what happened. Maybe the events were too traumatic, according to the book, for her to remember at such a young age. So none of it stuck with her. So she thought that her father made it up. And anytime she's tried to pry information out of her mother and father, who are separated, neither of them ever gave her any answers or budged on any information. So this has been a mystery throughout her entire life. This famous book is tied to their family. She's went on talk shows and done interviews. This famous haunted manor described in the book, and nothing was basically given as to information for her. However, as her father passes away, unfortunately, due to an illness, she finds out that even though they escaped this house back in the day, her father never sold it. And in fact, he still owned it. And it turns out that he wrote a will and passed on this property to his daughter. So she finds out that she's going to be inheriting Baneberry Hall. And right away, she's kind of freaked out because obviously there's all these negative connotations in her life attached to this house. There's a mystery behind it. And the entire town kind of shuns it as this like haunted hallmark. Like they don't really want to, haunted landmark. They don't really want to have any association with it. They blame them for ruining the town and the reputation because of what they said about the house in the book. But she decides, you know what, I am going to move in. I'm going to redecorate it. And she's basically hoping to find out the secrets behind this house, despite her family warning her well, her mother in this case, and other people, that that's not a good idea. First of all, because of the history behind the house, the murder, suicides, and the tragedies that happened in the past, the potential of paranormal activity, and the idea that the stuff in the book was actually not bullshit. Some of it or all of it may have been true. And her mother saying, you specifically should not go back to that house because, the girl Maggie, the little girl, was a main character in the book called House of Horrors, and terrible stuff happened to her according to the book. So she may be a victim to this if she goes back. But against the better judgment, she decides to go and tries to uncover the mystery behind what really happened at Baneberry Hall, and was the House of Horrors really nonfiction, and was there more than meets the eye behind the lore of this haunted manor. The premise was very sort of basic. I mean, you read it on paper and it seems very sort of standard for how horror stories go. But to me, my favorite trope of horror is haunted mansion stories. Haunted mansion, haunted houses, haunted manors. Those are my favorite type of stories when it comes to horror stories. And as I was reading this book, I was expecting, even though it's kind of basic, even though it's kind of meandering, there's probably going to be some good stuff that's generally going to unnerve me. I do like the whole idea of ghosts and spirits and paranormal activity. It's funny because as a kid, that stuff didn't really interest me. But now that I'm reading horror as an adult, that stuff sort of, for some reason, seems to hit home and work really well for me, especially in kids' horror and even other stuff that I've watched and seen. However, this book, the biggest problem with this book, and sorry if there's any noise in the background, people in my house don't know how to be quiet at the right time, but the biggest problem with this book is that it is very, very slow. This book is super meandering, super slow, and drags on this mystery. I was expecting a horror book. I was expecting there was going to be mystery aspects, but this is very much more so a mystery thriller book than really a horror book. A lot of it is dealing with uncovering the mystery. You got this girl trying to figure out clues and ties to the house and what really happened. But it's so dragged on that you're waiting for the paranormal activity stuff, and it only comes in small microscopic doses. Slowly, 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 slowly. And a lot of it, for those of you who've not read this book before, it basically switches perspectives back and forth. It goes from Maggie's perspective in the current age to the perspective of her father and as he was writing this book. So basically it starts reading off chapters from the House of Horrors book that her father wrote, and it gives his first person perspective in there, and then it cuts back to real life, and it's kind of meant to sync up and uncover more parts of clues. Again, it's a cool concept, but it's very poorly done because the chapter stuff in House of Horrors is really well written and really interesting. And then you cut back to the modern age and it's kind of retconning stuff, throwing in some twist and some red herrings, and you're just sort of kind of squinting your eyes and trying to hope that this all becomes cohesive at one point. And then the story reaches a point where all of a sudden you're basically hoping that it becomes cohesive. And then you get this twist ending. And this twist ending, holy fucking shit. This twist ending retcons a huge aspect of the book that you're basically looking forward to. And after you read it, you're like, what? Huh? Excuse me? What exactly are you going for here? And then after you find out the twist, you start getting back to back, go gadget bullshit twist, back to back to back to back to back. And you're sitting there like, bro, what the hell is this story about? You get ties to characters that go nowhere, then you get introduced to new character plot points and new plot points involving the setting, and then you don't really understand what's going on at a certain point. And it got to the point that I was like, dude, there's so much rushed bullshit happening towards the end of the book that I'm just like skimming through and trying to figure out if something substantial is going to happen. and it doesn't really happen. You get a concrete ending, I guess, but it's so convoluted and so like so random and so it feels so rushed and forced that it took me out of the story. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, you had all of these pages to actually get to the good meat and potatoes of the story, aka to get to the fucking point. And you kept dragging on this mystery aspect and finding clues and clues and clues, and the clues go nowhere. The clues don't uncover the mystery. It goes down completely different routes. And then you get this big buttfuck reveal that you're just sitting there scratching your head like, what? And then all of a sudden you just start getting spammed with a bunch of stuff. And the book's not even scary. It's not even creepy. It's some of the most average stuff you could read. If you are a horror fan, if you've read a bunch of horror stuff, even if it's kids horror, even if it's adult horror, even if you haven't read adult horror books, but you've seen TV shows and stuff, this book is so average. It's so mid that you're just like, you're not getting anything special out of it. And there's one creepy scene in the book to me that may or may not involve a little girl sleeping in a bed and she wakes up and there's this cabinet, much like the one I have back there, which is a little bit creepy to think about. Hopefully that shit doesn't open up. It is taped. It is taped right now. Although it's not really for the reasons that you may think it is. I hope. But basically there's a big cabinet like that in her room and it slowly starts opening up and there's a person peeking out of that cabinet. Not that cabinet. Please no. But a cabinet like that, there's somebody in the dark just peeking out of it, staring at the girl. And then you find out, is that an entity? Is that the main villain potentially? You find out maybe it's even creepier. It might be more grounded than you think it is. And then you eventually find out that it's some convoluted plot point, and you're just like, man, fuck this shit. That was so creepy of a scene that I genuinely got creeped out, and I even got creeped out like walking into this room to do a review because I knew that shit was there. But now I'm not even worried because, again, the plot point is so convoluted that, you know, it's just like, I lost all care. That was a great scene. It could have been super effective, and then I just ceased to stop caring at that point. And there is a scene involving some ominous tapping that happens down the hallway of this haunted manor. It is creepy, but is again very basic and again doesn't go anywhere. That's the big complaint about this book. It has some potential. It has some of the material there to actually be good, and then it fumbles a lot of it. And it just ends up being a super basic story and super forgettable. And really, I'm just glad that I finished it. I'm just more so mad that I wasted my time reading this book. And I'm more so confused and scratching my head like, why does this book have 184,000 ratings on Goodreads, placing it at like above 4 stars? And that too, when you look up most popular adult horror novels and you get that 1900 item list on Goodreads, this thing is on page 1, like in the top 50. I'm reading this book. I'm like, whoa, is this the first horror book you guys have read? Is there just a bunch of shills that got hired to leave reviews and ratings for this book? I don't know. I mean, I can't accuse anybody, but I feel like any horror fan that's out there that's read or seen anything, kids horror, YA horror, adult horror, would not be impressed by this story. And for any of you that are veterans out there, I think you'll especially not be impressed at all by the tale. And then I looked up reviews, some reviews online, like videos made, and I haven't watched their videos thoroughly, but a lot of people thought this was overrated too. So this is an anomaly. This is a Spider-Man 2099 anomaly. I'm not sure why this book is as popular as it is. Does it deserve to be as popular as it is? Hell the fuck no. Do I recommend you read this book? Hell the fuck no. This is like, if you want to read just a basic ghost story that ends up becoming some wild mystery shit, go ahead. You know, if this is your first book, maybe give it a shot because you're going to find stuff that you like even better. So yeah, make this the first adult horror book you read because you can only go up from there. And even the stuff that is down from there is probably still unique enough that you would remember it because of how bad it is. So, very boring, very forgettable book. And that's really all I have to say about it. Am I impressed by Riley Sager so far? No. And I've not heard good things from my friends, especially Monster Blood, who read a book by him called Final Girls, which is apparently one of the worst books he's ever read. So not looking forward to that. We'll see how Riley Sager goes. I might read like 2 more books from him, and if they end up being the same shit, I'm just gonna drop them, and I'm gonna make a video saying I'm done with Riley Sager as an homage to Monster Blood with him and Richard Lehman. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to hit that subscribe button down below and hit that like button. It's a free way to support me. Again, red subscribe button, hit it, like button, get it to that white, not that white like what you want to do with Felicia, as I spoke with earlier, but, you know, white just says you hit it. And stay tuned for more content to come. I uploaded a video yesterday about top 5 Goosebumps books I want to make into movies, and I have some other adult horror content on here. So feel free to check it out if it's the first time you stumbled on my channel. And let me know if you agree with me or not. Did you love this book? Did you not like this book? Do you think it's mid just like me? Or do you think that it's actually underrated for some reason? Let me know. And also comment down below. If you've read Riley Sager, are there any books that you recommend I read from him? Because the next 2 books are probably going to be the last chance that I give to him, and they better be good ones. I will read Final Girls, but I mean, I may or may not include that as my 2nd or 3rd choice. I might make that a 4th choice. But if you have any books down below you recommend from Riley Sager, please comment it and I'll check it out. And that's all I have for today. Deuces. You know, it's actually funny that the idea of me recording in this room in the dark when I was turning on this lamp was creepier than actually the book was. Again, man, this book is such a waste of potential. It could have actually been scary. And I think I myself could have written a non-fiction book about paranormal activity, and it would have been a lot better than the shit that this guy came up with, all right? Now, I'm not inviting that shit, but I'm just saying. Did you guys hear a creak? Or am I tripping? That's all I have for today. Deuces.